Got our grand finale, 25 minutes. Okay, stretch. So this part is Peter Levine's work. It's, sorry. Did you just cuss?
Yeah.
All right, do you guys have your traumatic experience reprocessing? This is a marathon, huh? am I switching gears okay? Like no segue. All right. There should be some trauma packets around here somewhere.
Sorry. Is this what you mean?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I think phase 3 already has one.
Yeah, I've got one in my file.
Okay, my jokes are going to be just the same as last time, so.
Do you want one now?
I'll look if there's a spare one.
Yeah.
Just look for it.
Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm just going to ask for a courtesy laugh when I tell my jokes again. All right? Because
starting now.
I'm just.
You got it.
I don't have any new ones. All right. All right, so what Peter Levine, okay, so this is traumatic experience reprocessing. And so there's this guy named Peter Levine. And there's a lot of other researchers out there now too who are doing tons of somatic work. Basically, we hold stuff in our cells and in our body. Sounds a lot like limbic system, right? This is all limbic system. And so I love that because for me to control my limbic system is like me saying, one of my courtesy jokes, please, that I'm not going to go pee ever again. And I'm just going to stand here and never do it. And then see what happens. My limbic system will say, you're acting like a dumbass. We're going to pass out and pee here in front of all these people. And it's just going to have to happen. I can't control that. And if I'm going to shame myself for trying to control that, that's ridiculous. So there's a lot of behaviors that we engage in or we do or we repeat that are based in our limbic system and that we think that we should have more control. And so this is an incredible model, I feel like, to help you process through this. And so where this came about for me, actually one of the clients here gave me his book, but I find that whenever I process trauma, or if I process painful things, the biggest time for me is when I'm laying in bed. Whenever I'm laying in bed at night and my environment is still, my brain is a washing machine. It is just, it's spinning and spinning and spinning. And so I didn't really know what to do with that, but this is the way that I can deal with it and deal with it effectively, where I can move from that victim to that warrior. I see my story, like there's a bunch of little me's outside of this door. They all have a platter. On that platter is a traumatic event. And there's a little girl in there who was the me. Even if the little girl was 2 weeks ago, is still younger than me now. And she's scared, she's terrified. She's done some really embarrassing things to cope, but she's scared and stuck. And so whenever that knocks on my door, comes into my brain and says, hey, take a look at me, help me. And I say, oh my God, gross, go to the back of the line, I can't look at you, that's disgusting. All I'm doing is solidifying this pattern of this cycle happening. So what I've learned with this, I can say, bring it in here. You know what, if you were my kid, here's what I would do. I'd lose control of myself to help you. And so it's really going into that limbic system, fight or flight, to help us unfreeze from certain events. So that's a little preface of it, and there is some stuff written in there about how this came about. Okay, so what I wrote up here was our brain is going along and it's acting normal because we're supposed to be normal. And things are fine, but when we have a threat or a perceived threat, so earlier I talked about the polo cologne, right? Well, the polo cologne is a perceived threat. I smell that, so I panic. When we have a threat, our brain releases all these chemicals, the same ones we talked about before, the glutamate, the norepinephrine. It gets our body in this sympathetic nervous system response that says, oh no, I gotta speed up because I gotta protect myself. I need to fight or flight so I can save this body. Saving the body is the only point. If I'm able to save the body by running or fighting, then I blow off all that energy that I had built up and I return back to normal. Probably with some residual shaking and maybe I pee or maybe I laugh or giggle or whatever. I do some primal stuff and then I'm done. So it's like taking a Coke bottle and here comes a threat. I shake it up as hard as I can. I need this energy, and so I take off the top, use that energy, and once I blow that energy, I'm able to go back to normal. However, if my limbic system says, oh shit, if we fight or flight, there is a better chance of death. So what we need to do is play dead. Okay, I'm just going to stop there because I have said, why didn't I run? Why didn't I fight? Why didn't I tell? Why did I just stay there? Why did I act like that was okay? Well, because my limbic system said, self, it is safer to play dead than to fight or flight. So let's look at the difference, looking at my story. I said when I was 6 years old. I was not being molested by somebody else who was 6 years old. It was a grown person. Fighting or flighting was not my option. Playing dead was my option. Did I survive? Yep. It's just about survival. I survived. But yet the shame says, why didn't I? I should have. Does that make sense for you all? Okay. Because that's a really big shame piece that we cannot control. So what happens when we freeze? The brain says, this is too much, let's survive, so we freeze. And basically, this is where we play dead, we disassociate, our pain tolerance skyrockets, we have cognitive fragmentation. And so what that means to me is it's like I'm going along. So one client said that she was going along, she was going home from work, she saw the stop sign, looked at the clock, and then all of a sudden heard screaming, and the brakes, and then a crash, and then screaming, and then was in the hospital. So during the point where she was in the most brutal part of the wreck, she went to this frozen state. You might call it she was in shock, right? But her body just went to this shutdown state of, what? And it's kind of like a dream place, which again, that's happening in the limbic system. So front brain sits down. It's not linear when we get down in this deep area, it's fragmented. So then let's think about the trauma memories that come up. Are they fragmented? Yes. When we have flashbacks and we think of things, it's like bits and pieces. It's because it's still frozen in this little loop that keeps playing. So I've got this little person in here and it says, help me. Well, because that's what's stuck in there. And we think, well, I survived, I should be fine. I'm going to use some talking therapy just to make sure I can get through it. Well, the talking is happening in this part of your brain. The trauma at that point is stuck in the deep part of your brain. Now, if somebody is traumatized right this second, I'm going to talk with you to keep it in the talking brain. But once it's lodged down here, we have to go down here to access it. Make sense? So that's why it gets really weird. And you start to have all these sensations because it's in your body. It's not in your thinking brain. Okay, so why do we do this? Our body is on the last ditch effort to live or die. If I'm going to die, my body says, here's a gift. We're just going to go ahead and shut this show down and we're just going to go ahead and check out. So I've already checked out before I've even died. Or it's going to say, we might die. The best thing to do is pretend to be dead. Go ahead and check out. And then if you don't have as much tissue damage as you would have fighting or flighting, then we'll come back to life and things are okay. I think that's brilliant. I think that is incredible that our bodies do that. But what happens with animals freeze, and they do this all the time because it's about survival. And if we don't do this, then we're easy prey and they die, right? But after they have something traumatic happen, they shake, they scream, they run, they do everything so that they can get back to normal. We have to go out the way that we came in. Now, not necessarily we need to go back and have a car accident, but we need to go out the way we came in. And so we have to have this fight or flight reaction in order to get back to normal. If there's another way to do it and you won't figure that out, please let me know, because I would love to do that with my clients. But this is the most effective way that I've ever found. It's like whenever you're here, your foot is on the brake and you're like the gas, and you're speeding and speeding and speeding. Whenever you can't speed anymore, the frozen part says, now slam on the brakes. So your engine is revving and you're not moving. And this is how you stay, and this is how you feel, right? And so you think, oh my God, I've been doing this for 20 years. If I take my feet off of these at the same time, this car is going to explode. The reality is your body wants to get back to balance as soon as possible. It's efficient. You take your feet off the brake and the gas, you buck a little bit, and then you're done. I've seen the most healing ever by doing this, like 1 or 2 sessions. Just because it's scary, but so what? It's scary anyways, right? So a couple examples. One that Peter Levine gives is he talks about this tiger chasing an antelope, I think. And if you watch this like on Discovery Channel, you're going to see the tiger chasing the antelope, and it's going to run and scatter and be all over the place. But then at some point, the antelope's just going to stop and basically be like, okay, go ahead and do it. And if you're watching this, you're going to say, oh no, this is horrible. But really it's not, because the tiger gets the antelope, bites it, takes it down, it's already dead. And so with that, it doesn't have to rip it to shreds. It doesn't have to fight it anymore, drags it off, and the chance of survival is higher because it's already playing dead. That tiger can go get her cubs. The antelope can stand up, shake it off. It's injured, but it's not destroyed. So then your shame times where you say, I should have ran, I should have fought, I should have. If you did, you most likely would be dead. What saved you is playing dead. What saved you is not moving and going to that kind of catatonic state. And you didn't have a choice in it anyways. You can't tell that part of your brain what to do. Thoughts on that so far? That's a 10 minutes of glory there, huh? Is anybody breathing? Thoughts?
I was gonna say that that's why a lot of people don't bring up their trauma, because they're like, well, I can't call that rape because I didn't kick the person in the shins, I didn't scream, I didn't, I can't say that somebody did that to me because I didn't, and because they, even though they really were, because most of the time, like you said, little kid, or even if you are the same age, you're scared to death. And you can't react like you would in a normal logical spot. But that keeps a lot of people from sharing traumatic things.
When you say normal and logical, that's here, right?
Right.
We're not logical there.
Right.
So when we sleep and we're having dreams, our brain is just as active as my brain is right now. If you look at like a EKG, I think, you're gonna see the exact same brain activity, but my front brain shut down. That's why I'm not making any sense. My dreams are a train wreck. Because it's all in that limbic system and that's where all the energy is. So you have all the energy, but you are not logical. You're not even at the right store. It's like trying to get gas at the mall. It's not gonna happen. It's not at our mall. Okay, so a couple more examples. What am I thinking here? Okay, so one thing that I find, I've got to think of the right order for this. I'll just talk about my dog first because I love to talk about my dog, right? Do you want to tell the story of my dog? It's funny. I don't even have to have a courtesy laugh for this. So I've got a pug and he stinks and he's old and he needs a bath all the time, but he doesn't like a bath. And so when I turn the water on, even though he can't hear anything, he can hear that somehow. And he starts doing his run around the house. He's going to flight, right? Mm-hmm. And so I catch him because he's not fast. And then I carry his stinkiness to the sink while he's trying to bite me. And so he's going to try to fight. I'm still not going to lose this battle. I get him in the sink. The water's warm. He has bubbles on his pug head. And he's loving it. And I can tell he loves it because, he's relaxed. Just chill and relaxed and happy. And I'm thinking, see, this is fun. I'm smiling. We're all happy. We're having a good time. You just had to get in the water to understand. And then once he gets out of the water, he starts running around real fast again. Another confirmation that this was a big time, and he is so stupid because we do the same thing every time. Why don't you just let me put you in the sink? Why do you act so dramatic? And the deal is he thinks he's drowning, he's terrified, and he freezes, and he sees other dead dogs, right, floating around outside saying, come to the light, come to the light, your death is here. And he's just looking at him. And then whenever I get him out of the sink, he has to go back to fight or flight in order to resume normalcy. And he has no idea what the hell was going on because he was in a cognitive fragmented state. And then we're friends, right? Everything's good. That's the best way to describe this, right? So why don't we do that? We don't do it because we are scared. We're scared. We have been punished. I know one thing I love to hear is I'll give you something to cry about. Real nice thing to say. Because that's somebody saying what your body's doing is not appropriate. So you can only do it if I give you permission. Our bodies discharge energy the best that we can. And you see animals do it all the time. We're animals, but we're not allowed to be. So we're scared, we've been conditioned, we've been punished, we have been ridiculed, or we're embarrassed, or we're supposed to act like a man, right? We're supposed to do these things. We're not supposed to be sensitive, we're supposed to just act a certain way. And so we keep ourselves numb, we keep ourselves frozen, we keep ourselves stuck. And we do this with alcohol, we do it with drugs, we do it with, what else do we do it with? Everything, right? Just we avoid feeling anything. We do it with self-pain. And so So we end up trying to come out of it, and we think, well, I can talk my way through it, but if we don't feel it, we don't release that energy, then we're going to stay stuck. So on the other side of that, other people are terrified as well. So when I did my work at the bridge, I was reading my story. In the meantime, I was like pressured speech and stuttering and nervous, red face. I was scared because my body was reacting to my story. It was a primal response. And I said, I'm having a primal response to my story. I know that. And everybody said, oh my God, you need to calm down. Please take a deep breath. Please take a deep breath. I hope you don't do this all the time. And that was like, you might as well have stabbed me in the heart. That was so hard to hear, and I was so devastated, and I was humiliated, and I was embarrassed, and I was like, well, I knew it. I can't trust anybody. I'm not going to say anything to everybody ever again. I mean, just was going to just shut down. So I talked to Tara about it. She was like, you know, I mean, it was an awesome learning experience because that was their response out of fear. They were scared because they cared about me. They didn't want to see me going through that. I didn't hear it like that. I heard it as, you're humiliating yourself. But after we processed it, so much of that came out about how it was my fear and it was their fear. And the best thing that could have happened is somebody could have said, that is horrible. Oh my God, really? That is terrifying. Why are you not rolling in the floor right now? That's the worst thing I've ever heard. And so a lot of times in therapy, I'm going to egg people on as much as I can, not because I want to see how dramatic we can get, but because somebody needs to say, that sucks. That is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh my God. Because I've minimized it for myself all these years. You all minimize it all the time. And so that's the last thing that we need. So the love comes out weird. I'm trying to think if there's anything else as far as this goes. You know, if you've ever watched on the news where other people have really bad tragedy, like in different countries, and they're rolling around and acting crazy and screaming, I know that makes me uncomfortable. Like, wow, they're out of control. They've actually nailed it. They're doing exactly what our bodies are meant to do so they can get back to normal. So they can get back to balance, where we just stay, things are okay, and then we're drinking ourselves to death or doing whatever because we don't know how to release that energy. I know one time when my daughter was 3 or 4 or 3, I think, she wanted to watch a movie, but you got to think about being 3. Your body's growing. You tripled in size in like 3 years. You know, all of a sudden you're here to here, all the hormones. You're in preschool. You're learning how to talk. All of a sudden you're being there's so much stuff going on, and you don't have a vocabulary worth of crap to communicate that. So 3-year-olds act crazy. I don't know what Terrible 2s is about. It's Terrible 3s. Like, that is where shit hits the fan, right? And so she wanted to watch a movie. I said no. So before long, she was on her hands and knees, screaming, and then donkey kicking, and then her pamper came off, and then she's peeing everywhere. It was just like, I mean, just really put on a show. I have it on video somewhere, because that's the only thing I could do. After I realized, I was like, she's being defiant. I was like, no, this is Peter Levine stuff, and she's having a come apart. And it was really awesome, because after she did it, I mean, it was pretty hysterical. I need to find the video. I think she would love it. She was just fine. And then she went to bed, was exhausted. She needed to wear herself out. On a side note, that's why I think we need to have excessive exercise as part of recovery. We need to exhaust ourselves in a good way. But, I just think the way that my parents would have handled that would have been very different. I know a lot of parents that would have handled that a little differently. And so what I've done, instead of saying, oh, you just pee yourself wherever you are, you can donkey kick out Walmart or the mall, it's not appropriate to do that in the living room. So like, if you need to do that, it's totally fine. You need to do it in my closet where it's padded. Or you need to go do that in your room on your bed. So let me show you where you can release that energy so that you don't make a fool of yourself and you don't have that shame. But we can't keep that bottled up either, because that's not fair. And so that's been kind of helpful.
As we are conditioned, as you're saying, to stay in freeze and disallow ourselves from being able to move ourselves out of it, just receiving permission to do it may not be enough to prompt us into doing it. We might just not even know how. If we have 50 years of trauma and somebody just tells me in session, okay, you can release this, just getting permission might not be enough. How does one be able to prompt it?
I will show you about that.
There you are.
So right before I show you that, I'm going to give you one last example. Okay, as Peter Levine talks about reenactment. So he talks about 3 cheetah cubs, right? They're being chased by a tiger, a full-grown tiger. They're under a threat, they fight or flight, they end up being treed. When they're treed, they say, we're gonna die. So they go into freeze. They check out, their death is here. But the tiger leaves, they can't get up the tree. So whenever the tiger leaves, the 3 cubs instinctually climb out of the tree and instinctually reenact the scene together. Does that not make you guys have some thoughts? It is in our nature to reenact trauma with other people. So if you've ever been in the same relationship over and over and over and over again, that is an instinctual response trying to reenact the scene so that you can discharge the energy and say, enough, no more, I'm done. This is why hitting the block is so effective, because you finally say, enough, no more, I'm done. You have that chemical switch that goes off and says, I'm done. And literally, you're done. And so with the animals, like if we were all cheetahs, right, we would like chase each other around, and you'd get me and I'd let you, and then I'm gonna get you and you'd get away, and then you're gonna get me, and we're just gonna just get each other, right? And you see animals play like that all the time. I wonder if they're playing or if they're just working stuff out because they can't be traumatized, because then again, they're easy prey. And that goes against the whole nature of our brain. So I just wanna put that out there, because that's a really important deal. If you are shaming yourself for the reenactment, you gotta shame your limbic system again and see how that goes. But what you can do is when you find yourself in these spins, you can say, oh, I need to say stop. I need to say no to my dad, although I'm doing it through this relationship. It helps you find your voice. So here is my favorite example, teaching how to fight. So on your paper, and you all can do this, I won't be able to process it with you, but I have these pages right here, and I've got a bunch of these because I find that, again, these memories come up at night when I'm trying to sleep, and so I just like to have them. But what I ask you to do is to put today's date. Today is September 2nd, 1st? 2nd, right? 2nd. And I want you to say September 2nd because today you're an adult, you have survived, and you've made it. You know more than anything you knew back in those times. The little help me stuck in that memory needs your mind to get through this. The location and description of the experience. So like, this is not like, oh, here's the story. It's more of there were green walls, I heard yelling, it was at this house, it was springtime, I was at the beach. It's just the details. The environmental polo colognes, right? Also to look at positive and negative emotions. A lot of people get uncomfortable with the idea of positive emotions. It's critical that you find one. A lot of times leading up to the event, you were sleeping, you were resting, you were excited, you were hopeful, you were expecting. You know, you have all of these things, and then it goes wrong, and so now I'm hopeful you're going to be my friend. Well, hope equals danger. I can't be hopeful, but my limbic system can't let go of that. And so we have to find the positive, and then the negative is easy. Who is involved directly and indirectly? Well, my stepdad did this and this and this, and I hate him. Oh, but mom did let him in the room. Forgot about that, you know, so not that I'm trying to say let's blame and hate people, but we need to advocate for the little selves, and we're going to be our biggest team leader in this. And so everybody needs to be getting credit where it's due. This can be difficult sometimes if you're doing this on people that you love dearly now. I love my mother dearly, but I got to tell you, I've had to do some very intense work around her. And it's not pretty work. It's not, oh, I understand you were hurt, so that's why, blah, blah, blah. I had to go in and act like she was hurting my daughter in my head, and I don't care who she is. So just know that that can be a sensitive spot, but it's okay to go there. Like, this isn't real life. We're going into a disassociated place to do it. You write the description of the experience, and then what I like to have people do is draw their picture on the board. This is really uncomfortable. Drawing these little stick people can be really solidifying that this event sucked. So 17-year-old comes into my office. His mouth is wired shut because he went to the beach with his family. That's a condo. And he made friends, so they had a good time hanging out with his friends. The last day, he went down to say goodbye to his friends. They were wasted. He was excited to go see them, but they were wasted. Beat him till he was unconscious. Mouth was wired shut. Complete horrible event. So I see him a few weeks later, and he's just like in this paralyzed, frozen this. You know, of course, with his mouth wired shut, I should have fought. Why did I let them do that? Oh my God, I'm such a, you know, he just hated himself. And he just wouldn't let himself go. And the nightmares were just all these fragments of walking down and then seeing these like little flashes. So after he told me the story, I said, okay, so what do you know that this boy doesn't know? Bottom line is he survives. We don't know we live or die unless we blow out this energy. We're still stuck in that kind of unknown, I see ghost dogs state, right? So I said, well, we're here, but let's walk through the door. And if me and you together, and you know you make it, could see this scene on the beach. We open the door, we're on the beach. What is that like? It's scary, yes. What do you want to have happen when you see this boy 2 weeks ago, you getting beat up like this, and how scary that is? I want to tell them to stop, and I'm going to call the police. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I said, what would you do if that was your 10-year-old sister? And he clenched his hands, his whole body got red, with his mouth wired shut. He was like, I would fucking kill them. I would fucking kill them. I was like, how hard would you kill them? When would you stop? What would it look like? How hard would you kill them if they saw you doing that to your sister? And the rage that he had was one of the best things that could have ever happened in that moment. And I said, and how would that little boy or that younger man feel that you just showed up for him? And that you said, I'm going to rage and I'm going to get you out of here. You don't need to be here. Then I said, where would he prefer to be? He wants to be in the condo. He doesn't want to be laying on the beach anymore because he's still there. Like in your mind. No, he doesn't want to be there. Take him to the condo. Take him to the condo. Me and you can come back in this office, but we need to do something here. Do you want to burn it down? Do you want to wash it away with the ocean? I don't know what he did, but we got rid of this. And we came back to my office. I mean, we weren't like hypnotized and doing all that. We just talked about it just like I am now. And just the idea of him watching this. So I want to show you, this is the cool part. Like this is like a little hypnosis, like disassociating time, right? Because there's two of them. So he's disassociated. How cool is that? And we have to go back to the disassociated state sometimes to get ourselves unstuck. And he basically said, oh, you have to come with me. He couldn't forget about this because the most important thing of his life was in there. He was still there. So we can't get rid of that scene without getting him out. That's how I see it, at least. And so we got him out of there and put him back in here. Just because I put his sister in there, that's how you know how to do that. I don't know how to stick up for myself. Now I do. But when you put somebody I love in there, I don't care what I don't care. There's no rules. I'm going to lose control. And so that's how people who don't know what to do know how to do real fast.
The scenario that you're describing in that time in your office, that is reprocessing from, you're dissociating to where you as the adult are going to rescue the child in. How does that facilitate actual physical movement, though, to do what the animals are doing as far as an actual physical in your office movement?
Okay, so
that's what I'm asking,
yeah.
Versus just
so him squeezing his fist, his blood coming up, and him like, oh, fucking kill them, just like that.
And that
is shaking. Yes, it's just the chemical change. And so it's like I can run or think about running. Same thing's happening in my brain, and so it's a chemical release.
Because I would assume, that when you are describing that as the 17-year-old child in your office, he is bound by the restraints of being in your office, in that he can't run, fight, scream, whatever, because of people in the adjacent office and furniture and all that kind of jazz. Whereas the cheetahs in the savannah are not bound by any of the constraints of society. And so just even by kind of just having to adapt to our mores in doing that is sufficient.
Yes, but people scream in my office a lot.
Okay.
I mean, like really scream, and they cry, and they shake, and they get in a ball. And I say I would do the same thing if I was you.
Okay.
This story makes me want to throw up. I can't believe you went through that. And I egg them on.
And encouraging them to feel those
Yeah, I'm like,
sensations.
Like, that's all you got? Like, I can't believe you're not throwing up right now. Yeah. Like, this is sickening,
'Cause that's one of the things that's really cool about being in our facility, just because we're out separate from everything, we've got all this outside versus if we were doing it in a different setting. I would think that just the inhibitions of not wanting to do that so publicly would take over,
Yeah, the people in the office next to me, that's like the administrative people.
Mm-hmm. But that's
Because if we
you
can't
don't
do it,
find that
then
to be
we
the case.
sometimes get the donkey stuff out that we watched last time, right? The screaming donkeys.
Well, I was gonna say, I know Scott usually is, well, if he knows somebody's gonna come in
Or
and do
goats,
it.
I'll show you.
If somebody's gonna come in and do a hit list, he'll schedule them for a nighttime when he thinks people aren't gonna be there or something like that, but yeah, I mean, really, when we do a hit list, ideally, and especially the more and more somebody does it, this is exactly it, you know, it's like trying to help them fight back and then feel that physical sensation and get that up and out as
Yeah.
much as possible.
To me, it's just that compassion. It's the big, fuck, we're done. We're done. I'm not gonna say, oh, this happened because they were hurt.
Right.
You know, like I told myself so many times, like, oh, well, it happened to so-and-so. I mean, somebody told me that 1,000 times, so I had to regurgitate it. It's me going in and saying, I don't care what happened to this adult. This is fucking not okay.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care what happened to you. You shouldn't do this. And
Right.
using that tone to protect myself
Mm-hmm.
is foreign.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, because I've justified to try to get that power of understanding, well, they wouldn't have done it. You know, it's just our reasoning.
Right.
And so it's always nice to go in and say, I'm not going to take any excuses. This is not okay. If like little me wants to give some excuses, I don't care. This is not okay. Not acceptable.
Right.
That's why it's really hard to do it with people like parents and spouse and stuff, because we want to make excuses for them.
Yes, because we love them. And that's why I had to add that I love my parents dearly.
Mm-hmm.
But you better believe I've chopped their heads off in my work before.
Right.
Lots of times. And that sounds horrible, but there's no limits on this, except you can't do it in real life. There.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that's recorded. but it's just the stuff that has happened. You know, I'm holding myself hostage until I say it's not okay. And if you did this to my kid, I would be crazy. So why can't I do that for myself? And so we're going in and rescuing ourselves. And again, it's just this frozen spot. Life continues after that. I think our thinking brain says, well, I'm going to go there and never come back. Your brain does not operate like that. You're not going to have a breakthrough and then get stuck. That is not what the brain's about. Now, if you do acid, you might get stuck, right? But having a moment where you're like clearing the air, your body's job is to get back to normal. Now, I'm going to show you one more before I leave that is one that is not so dramatic, so we don't have to chop people's heads off all the time. You know, maybe you might have one where you kept, you know, talking to your parents, or you went to a play, or you did something, and every time you did something, they talked about sister or brother. It was always somebody else. You know, so that's not as extreme, but there's nothing wrong with going into that room and saying, shut up! Stop talking about so-and-so. Look what she's done. Look what he's done. Shut up. You know, so that's not that crazy, but it's still that validation of, that would have been awesome if somebody said that. It would have been great if somebody said, you're coming with me because they're acting ridiculous. Come on. I needed an adult to step up, and I'm the only adult that knows that child's story. I can't expect anybody else to rescue me. Okay, so then this one is another, I'm just going to put my dirty laundry out here. So I found myself in this situation a lot, as I did with my eternal family systems, just hooking up with whoever. And then, of course, there was a lot of drugs and alcohol involved, and there was a lot of shame, and oh my God, I'm a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't help me stop by saying I was a piece of crap. So I imagine if I were to open this door and I were to see that same 19-year-old me with whoever at the moment, and I would absolutely not say, I hate you, you're a piece of crap. At first, I would be weird and I would be uncomfortable, but if that were my daughter in there, that's when I get the mama bear stuff on. I would, with as much dignity as I could, help that little girl out of that room. I would love her through that. I would do whatever it took to make her feel that she was amazing and beautiful and never, ever had to be in that spot again. I would say, what do you need? What do you want to do? The world is going to shut down for you until we get you better. You never have to do this. You don't know how to love you, but this is not how to do it. Let me show you. And so with every bit of my energy, I would, in the most forceful way, love her so that she could walk away from that, so that she could flight, so that I could flight. And just that, even saying it, and even just pretending and saying it as if it's my daughter, because it's in this spot, the thing just happened. So every time I say this, I'm healing, because it happens every time in this spot that doesn't keep score. It doesn't have a linear record of anything. And that's a great place to be. Every time I say, little me, where do you want to be? She says, Waffle House. Waffle House. Just cleaned up, took a shower, brushed teeth, and then we'll go to Waffle House. Right? And it's it's a really cool thing because I don't have to kill this room. I don't have to kill that girl. I don't have I get her out of there with love and say, that sucks that you thought you had to do that. That's sad. That sucks. I hate that you had to think that. And that's where the story changes. Did I do it in an hour and a half? Does that help? Is this, I know I've bombarded you guys a lot today with.
So can you do the same thing with like behaviors that you exhibit after your trauma? So let's say like I reenact a behavior after my main trauma. Can I still go rescue myself from
Every
those
single
behaviors?
time. Yes.
Cool.
What I think happens, you know, if I'm standing here and like behind this door, there's like all these me's, right?
Right.
I think some of them have a similar card.
Right.
And so like I rescue the big one, and then I rescue this one, and the others just kind of fall out of line because they know it's like my body trusts me. And if that thought comes up, it knows that I'm going to stick up for it.
Okay.
And so the better you get, and you'll read that in here, the better you get, the more you get flooded with this crazy stuff. Because your body's like, I trust you and you're going to be on my side.
Right.
And so if you're healing, your body, these parts are saying, please pick me next. It's not because your body's trying to self-destruct and torture you. It's because it trusts that you love yourself enough that you're going to pick it next and say, and I love you too. This was not acceptable behavior.
Right, because I get that I worked on the big one, but sometimes I still get stuck in, crap, I still did all of these little things after. And I know, to the best of my knowledge, I did those things because I didn't know better, but I still kind of beat myself up. Like, look at how many times you did this, or look at how much wreckage you caused. Or
Well, and it was because you were stuck in this,
yeah,
and you just couldn't get out and couldn't get out. And so, like, go in like you're looking at a child.
right.
You nannied, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those kids. And just be like,
Different.
oh my God.
Right.
Oh my God. Stop!
Yeah.
Stop!
You.
Stop! And you would, I'm getting cold chills, because you would lose control of yourself so that you could do whatever it took. And so if any shame comes up and you're shaming them, you're like, you need to stay there longer. And those little parts of you are just dying there.
Okay.
You know, so like the shame doesn't help. We have to go in fearlessly and say, that sucks.
So every time shame comes up in a certain situation.
Walk in that room
Walk
and
in.
say, no more.
Okay.
You're coming with me. What do you need? What did somebody not ask you? What you need?
What did you not get?
Yeah. What did you not get? Like you're waiting for somebody to save you, and I need to do that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be your biggest advocate.
And it could be that, like, especially if you revisit the same memory, then there's a different message you need. Because, like, you might know, oh, I know I need to know it's not my fault. But maybe there's another message that you also need. So if you keep going back to that or going to something similar, sometimes there's another thing. Like, one of my sexual abuse things was like, first I had to know that it wasn't my fault that I didn't scream at this person because I was a little kid and they were grown up. But then another thing was actually feeling the pain of the fact that my parents weren't looking for me. It's freaking middle of the night to early in the morning. They didn't even come check to see if I was okay, and there's strangers in the house. So that broke my heart, and I had to just feel that. Then there was another one that grew up Catholic, and I wasn't supposed to lie, and I lied to get away from this guy. So like, I had to go back to, every time I went back to that memory, I was like, God, I can't believe I'm going back to this memory. I'm such a drama queen. Like, why do I keep going back to this memory? And so I had the breakthrough of finally allowing myself to have compassion for this part. But then every time I went back to it, I was thinking, oh, I'm just bringing it up because I like drama. Really, there was a lot of different. So there was like, so we got the big gigantic log out, but there was all these splinters, all these other things, messages that I needed to see.
I didn't even think about that.
And it's so nice to say, there may be something else in this room we need to pull out.
Yeah.
What else is in this room? Like you need to get any pictures, you need to get this, you need to get that. And so people start pulling things out. And if you see it like an investigator.
So when she said that, you know, that when she started saying that, and I started saying that to clients, because sometimes people would like not want to leave a room, and you'd say, "What is it you need in here?" And they'd be like, "Well, my little brother's in here. I'm not leaving him with this crazy person." And you go, "Holy crap!" Because
like quilt's in there.
We didn't know why that person didn't want to leave that room. They're like, "My dog." Remember that person not too long ago? It's like, "I'm not leaving my dogs." You know, it's like so cute.
And it's so important to say, "Oh, you don't want to leave that
You
person.
don't have to leave
that room.
course.
I'll fragment again. I'll disassociate. Part of me will hear, the other part will stay there still." I mean, it's just this disassociated limbic world is pretty phenomenal. I wish that we could put our fingers on it a little bit more because it's like we do some weird things to live.
Yeah.
to survive. It's so complex.
It's really amazing to take this and to go from, having such a big shame core and beating the crap out of ourselves to instead going like, aren't we freaking amazing? We're amazing. We're in this room because we survived this. I know.
Every time I've had shame or every situation that I've beaten myself up from, I can use this process and understand why I acted the way that I did and change the complete feeling around that situation so that it doesn't haunt me anymore.
It's a sweet little girl and you saying, will you please look at me and help me? That's the sign.
Right, and just know there's sometimes, because you're so used to the overwhelming shame, that it will be like the